Hi everyone and welcome to our astrology video. My name is Emmaleen Muldoon and I work with Emmalene's Astrology, and I'm lucky enough today to be working with Jim Delacoli.
Hi Emmaleen, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Today is Sunday, the 15th of May, 2022. And we wanted to get together to do a video on astrology and how you can understand it and how you can work with it yourself. We wanted to really give you some information, to give you the tools to be able to try and understand as much as you can about astrology, to try and help bring this knowledge to everyone and share what we know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to come across tonight in a unique perspective or way that maybe you haven't read or heard on YouTube or wherever you're getting your astrology info. And so we're going to put this in bring it from different avenues. So hopefully it opens your mind and you'll start understanding that this subject is meant for us, and it's free and it's there for all of us to understand. We may not understand it in one form, but maybe in a form tonight that we bring it to you, you will. So we're hoping that it's fun for you as it's going to be for us, because Emmaleen is a lot like I am in that we want to share, and our best thing is we want to leave whatever we touch better. And that's really the objective tonight. So enjoy. And I always talk about me being monotone. Emmaleen is very interesting to listen to. So I think that's going to help keep your attention tonight, so you don't listen to my monotone tone the whole time, because she has unbelievable insight. She's really taken astrology and done well with it. So I'm actually looking forward. I don't share with many people, but I'm really looking forward to sharing with you tonight, Emmaleen.
Thanks, Jim. Well, that means a lot coming from you, because you really do know a lot on this subject and been doing it a very long time. So it's great to work with you.
Yeah, let's have fun.
Yeah, so I think tonight what we're going to do is we're going to go through the signs, the houses, and what a birth chart looks like. So a real sort of like astrology 101 workshop. We're going to be covering what planets mean, what the houses mean. So you're going to get an idea of the basics really as a good lesson, because like Jim said, it's really important that people do have access to astrology. I always say that people use it all the time, like President Reagan, he was able to access it through his wife Nancy, and other people like JP Morgan, who've been known to be using astrology. And it's not necessarily fair that only those people that have money and funds and astrology get to use it. So our aim, I think, is to try and get that out there for everyone.
They also say, Emmaleen, and I don't like quoting this too much, but they say that following trends and data is for the millionaires, but the ones that follow astrology are the billionaires. So it's not just about money, but it truly, hopefully tonight will show you that there are trends and there are patterns and there are cycles that if we could just show you a new way or a better way or more of a way tonight, that you help start incorporating this into your life. And we think this would be wonderful for all of us involved. So we're going to put forth what we know, and we're going to have fun. So we hope you enjoy.
Yeah, it is. And I think that quote that you just gave was actually JP Morgan.
I think so.
It actually was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I love that quote. It's one of my favorite astrology quotes. Right. So Jim has created a really good presentation. So if I share the screen to get the PowerPoint up and show everyone what we're looking at here. Okay. So this is page 1. Mm-hmm. Bring astrology to your world.
So what we want to do tonight is we want to get on that journey of what Emmaleen and I have already done, but you discovering you. We've both been discovering ourselves, and as you'll see, the more you get into this, the more you'll want to learn, and the more you'll feel like you don't know and that you'll need to get after. So really the whole journey of this, the whole part of this life is the journey of discovering yourself. Um, what astrology taught me is how and why we chose this time and place. Then you go to the next layer of realizing your potential. And then where it took me was my potential was then exponential. I was the one that was the limiting factor. And then really that you're going to learn, hopefully after we're done here, that truly you have what you need within you. It's a matter of you digging deep and allowing yourself that space to find it. And once you do that, you're gonna come to that realization that the only thing that really matters is that everything we do, we try to get better and we try to improve as we go through life. We will make mistakes. We will have times when we need to rest, and we'll talk about that. We'll have times when we need to harvest. We'll talk about that. We'll have times when we need to plant seeds, and so hopefully we can get this and get you to understand your life to a deeper degree. One thing I want to do, I'm a very visual guy, and if you look at the picture there, it's kind of rough to see a little bit, but the sun to your very left is the center, and it's the life force, the life-giving force, the light itself, and all the planets then reaching or edging out to the outer parts of our solar system are in line. Mercury, Venus, the Earth, and the Moon, and then Mars, and we consider those the internal planets. They're faster moving. You can see the circumference of how they travel around the sun. They all have different speeds. They'll be later into this presentation, and the different speeds that they travel around the sun to get back to their point, any point in the sky, is a cycle. And then we basically in astrology divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I don't think you need to go any more. You can, but it's just basically a mathematical game. The planets of Jupiter and Saturn kind of relay the messages from the universe, and their pattern or their cycle is a little bit longer. And then we got Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto on the outer portion, and they are the long-term generational kind of lesson teaching planets, and you'll see why with their transit time to get through the zodiac from our perspective. So we have the internal planets, which would be the sun through Mars. Then we have the middle planets of Jupiter and Saturn, and then the outer 3 planets, and they're all relative in their own way. And I hope you have fun in understanding why and how we go about this.
Yeah, so these personal planets, the sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, they're the ones that are faster moving. They're going to be going around your chart quicker, more often. So they're the ones we're dealing with. That's, they're more personal to us because we're dealing with them more regularly. And then, I think Jim's the same as me. When I'm doing a reading, I really look for where's Jupiter and Saturn, because that's what we're dealing with a lot of the time. Yep. And then, when you get out here to the outer planets, when you're looking at their transits, you're not really going to have many Pluto transits in your lifetime, and not really Neptune either. But Uranus, you can see some of the bigger stuff coming along with those outer, slower moving transits as well.
And I equate this out then, if you just stop and just think about this. Let's say your annoying uncle and his wife, your aunt, decide to show up to your house. Would you want them to stay with the transitory period of the inner planets? Would it be from days to months to up to 2 years? Or would you want them to stay a Saturn cycle of 29 years, right? How would you know them? Would you know them more if you had them stay for more than that couple weeks or a couple of years than maybe a 29-year cycle Saturn? And so that's kind of how I want you to understand these planets and understand the message and the energies that you're going to be dealing with as these make pivotal points in your natal chart.
And what's really good is when you know how to use astrology and understand it, you can then use it with your children's charts, or your partner, or someone else's, or a country or a business. You can look up charts of people, and that's really helpful to see, for example, your children. How do my children respond? What do they need? What's their strengths? What's their weaknesses? You know, you can use it for other people as well. So it can really help with your life and other people's.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I skip to page 2.
Yep.
Right. Here we go.
So I also like I explain the truth, and this is how I handle it. The truth comes to all of us in at any given moment, but it might not be in the same time frame, right? I might get it in 1995 in a way because I have critical aspects that I'm really like open, right? And you might get them in 1992. You're not faster than me or better than me, but that might be a pivotal year for you because we had some angular planets or some, you know, powerful planets on powerful natal planets for you. So I like quotes that have touched me, right? And I hope you share, and Emmaleen, I hope you keep sharing like you have been. You know, a quote that really just stopped and made you just change almost in a moment. Not maybe how you thought, but it changed. It just opened you to like, whoa, I never saw that, or I never even thought about that. And so I just threw a couple quotes here that were very important to me.
Okay.
As I'm going through life, and these are several years old, but there's just a proverb was know the world in yourself, never look for yourself in the world, for this would be to project your illusion. And that goes to that internal part, right? That I think we all do and need to do and continue to do throughout our life, because as we age, we get wiser, right? And what we think we know, sometimes the opposite ends up happening to us. So,
you want to read? Do you want to read all your quotes?
Yeah, you can read. Go ahead and read the next.
You want to read? Okay, so move this screen so I can see it. Oh, okay. First one is know the world in yourself. Never look for yourself in the world, for this would be to project your illusion. And then there's a quote here by Helen Keller. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. And then we've got Albert Einstein. He does lots of good quotes. Any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. Albert Einstein again. The only real valuable thing in life, is intuition. And then the last one is Harry S. Truman. If you can't convince them, confuse them. And I think there's another Albert Einstein quote that I'd like to add in, and that's the one, I'm probably not going to get it word perfect, but the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. And I think that can really be very big in a birth chart, is when you start seeing you're repeating the same pattern, the same energy that comes up, and once you've learned to use it or deal with that energy, then the different result, you get that different result that you want. So I think, sometimes I think Albert Einstein, was he into astrology? I don't know.
That I don't know. I didn't study.
I don't know. I've never really researched that, but a lot of his quotes really speak to astrology. So
yes,
we'll
need to add that to that. I'm gonna take a note to add that. That's a good one. I should have put that in there.
Yeah, I think he must have done some astrology. I don't know. We'll research that later.
Yes. Or if somebody watching can go ahead and add the comment too, help us out.
Oh yeah, that would be really handy if anyone knows about that. Okay, right. So page 3.
So now we want to just break this thing down, because the first thing that, and I love when I started my readings, Emmaleen, I've done a little longer than you, but I'm no better than you. But when I started, I would love to set the natal chart out, because it looks like a foreign language for sure. And I actually put my natal chart later in this. I don't mind doing that. But I want to break this down to help y'all. And so this third page is going to be an important one to keep referencing. Why am I here? I mean, I think the natal charts will help you explain that. And then what am I supposed to be doing? I think the planets will help that. How am I going to get there? How am I going to do it? The signs that they kind of help you with what's relevant, and answer a lot of the hows, and then, hey, where is this going to happen, and which part of my life? And the houses will show you that. So I would reference page 3 quite a bit as I'm studying, or as you get a natal chart. And I also want to let y'all know that we have later in the presentation, we're going to have websites you can go to that still do free natal charts. So you'll be able to, if you get your birth time, birth city, and time, city, and date, you will be able to pull up a chart, and then you're able to use this. This will be a very good reference tool. And with what Emmaleen and I say, if you just reference to it, I think you'll really be able to take yourself quite a ways in finding out more of who you are, because that's what we care about at this point. We kind of know who we are, but we want you to find you and then help us make the world a better place.
Yeah, so that is step 1, actually. We probably should have said that earlier on, but we're just assuming that people know. First off, you do need to get your birth chart. So we do have some places you can get them online. I think if you even Google free birth chart, you can find somewhere. And there are apps these days as well that people can get their birth chart up. So once you've got your birth chart, you'll get a funny looking chart. It looks a bit like page 4 over here. And what you want to be looking at is really like where your rising sign is, which is like 9 o'clock on the chart, and then your sun and your moon. That's like the first big, I call that the big 3. I think that's a generic term in astrology, like finding out what your big 3 is. But I love this, what you've done here on page 3. I think this was one of the first times you did your lessons, you did this, and I thought it was so brilliant, putting down to where the planets are. You know, it's almost scientific, the approach here. What am I supposed to do? You know, the science, you know, how are you going to do it? And then the where. So the what, the how, and the where. And I think that's the key. I was doing a class today, and that's what I was trying to explain to everyone. If you can understand and interpret that 3-step approach to astrology, that's it. I mean, it is very complicated. It takes a long time to learn. But if you can just master that first 3-step approach as to what's the planet, what sign is it in, and which house is it in, you read those 3, and that's sort of like the grassroots of trying to understand your birth chart, and then, you know, yourself.
Yes. And I'm a very simple person. I don't like complicated. So I'm always trying to break it down into a form that how do I make this the simplest or the easiest? It's not about being lazy. It's just about, no, I want this application ingrained in who I am and what I am. So I got down to this, and I think why watch you and I do the classes, and you know, once a month, and we do that all the time, and I love it. So
yeah, it's really helpful to work with people. So if you are in the Charlotte area, we do have monthly classes here. We actually do in person now. In person again.
Yep.
Okay, right. So page 4, we've got a birth chart here, which, you know, the first time I saw a birth chart, I just thought, oh my goodness, what is that? I thought astrology was my sun sign. I thought I was a Libra. Hold on. What is this? How do you know this stuff about me by looking at this? So it is tricky, but once you can get the basics of it, I think you can start to work around it. So, you know, if you start at the 9 o'clock point, that's what I always try and tell people. And then you go counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, as we say in the UK. Okay. Around to what you would think to follow the house numbers, because you see it starts at 1, 2, 3, all the way around to 12.
And so this is how we get definitions for, all right, what part of life, why this house is that, and why that is this. And so, as you said, with 9 o'clock is the starting point. And so what I've done is the hieroglyphics here, you'll get into a lot of different astrology material, and the sun will look like something in one set of material, and it'll look like something in another set. Aries will look like one. So what I've done through this is I've tried to find all the different hieroglyphics people use, and I've added them to all the pages. So they won't look the same on each page, but if you start to get to understand the basic of the sign or the planet and the hieroglyphic, you'll figure it out. So
I see. That's really handy. Yeah. That's really handy. I didn't really, yeah, that's really good that you've done that, because yeah, sometimes when you're learning astrology, you'll notice that the glyphs for each of the signs and the planets, they might look slightly different. So
Yes,
that's good
yes.
that you put them all in so we can see. Yeah, brilliant.
And so because we're just starting here, I've also color coded this chart and show you how, like I know what Emmeline does this because I know she studied it and I know I do it. I look at the chart and then I'll be, I can figure out who you are, what you are quickly by dividing this chart in half or in quadrants, or,
Yeah.
you know, or see where a bunch of planets are in one section. So I've color coded it, and I've also done a seasonality thing. So you can relate now to your life, in spring, summer, winter, fall, right? I love doing that stuff because that means everything to me, because it just adds to the simplicity and the understanding. And so just this is the basic, how we got to define each house. Obviously, one is going to be beginning, house one, which is just below the 9 on a hand, on the clock, going, yeah, counterclockwise.
Yep.
And then, of course, go ahead.
I'm just trying to scribble it in so people can see, but I think you've done a good job anyway.
So we have elements and modes, and we're going to talk about those as well. You'll see how the number 12 gets divided up by 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, and 12. And it's a wonderful, I mean, a wonderful mathematical equation. So you'll see how all this unfolds. The ascendant point would be, if we made this 12 houses and we made this into the day of your life, you could, Emily and I could sit here, and if you gave us your birth time, you said, I'm born at 3 p.m. Her and I right away would go, all right, your son is going to be in the 8th house. Well, how we know that is we take that 24-hour slot of your birthday, the actual day of your birth, and wherever we divide it by 12, each house of these is going to have a relevance by the house we're using, the Placidus house, is going to have a relevance of about 2 hours for that day. Okay. And we'll have color codes for you later, and then you'll see why we say, oh, you were born during the day, and the light half of the chart at night, the dark half where the sun wasn't visible. But then we can start breaking your chart down from there. So everything goes counterclockwise. The eastern half, this chart's like backwards. I think that'll fix some point, and I don't want to get into that today. So the east side, is if you're looking at it, would be what you think would be on the west side of the chart. So they're flipped, but north and south are there. And this kind of gets you set back on your bearings. For the seasonality, we did do this for springtime. If you start anew, houses in 1 through 3, if you have planets there, it's going to be you planting seeds and trying to provide an environment for those seeds to grow. Okay, that's springtime. So if you have planets either in natal chart or transiting, you'll know that, all right, I'm in spring right now. It's time for me to plant. And this is where this gets fun, because Emmeline's ascendant is Leo, which is the end of summer. So her springtime begins at the end of summer. And my ascendant is Aquarius, which is the end of winter, right? And so my springtime starts at the end of winter. So yeah, we both have different spring season times for the transiting planet perspective, but so we're different in a way than just a sun sign, because we're both Libras, but we're different in a way. But this will set you on your path of, all right, where am I? And then start to help you. So I'll let you talk about summer if you want to talk about 4, 5, 6.
Because like I think it's good to know, like when you're saying, you know, every year you're having a springtime, I think, you know, if you look back every year of your life, you might start seeing, actually, you know, like September is the time where lots of things happen to me every year, and that maybe that is the time where you're having your harvest, your time, or the time where you're putting your seeds in. But you know, you can actually start to see there's a pattern that comes up, you know, once a year. Maybe there's the time where my energies go into or growing or harvesting.
Yeah, and so you might be sitting next to, you might be a Libra like Emmeline and I are, yeah. But from our transiting perspective, her spring starts on the opposite side of mine. So yeah, we have a lot of traits that are the same, but here's where we haven't done a good job, in my opinion, of explaining astrology and getting it to the average person and say, no, I want you to use this, and here's how I'm going to help you use it. So, you might have a Libra sitting next to you, but like, man, we're on different pages. Maybe this is why your ascendants are opposite, right?
Yeah.
So I'll let you
Yeah,
talk about
exactly.
summer.
Yeah, the ascendant is really important. I mean, that's what, if you're ever reading your horoscopes, then you really should be reading for your ascendant, not your
Yes.
sun sign, because that's when you're going to get these timings and these dates work out for you. If you're reading your sun, it's not going to work in the same way. So that's why it's important. So, the spring is where you're putting in, putting the seeds in. And then the summer is where you're doing the work. You're tending to the seeds, you're digging up the weeds, you're trying to keep your plants flourishing. It can be a really busy time. I often say to my clients, when they've got Saturn down here in the 6th house, it's like your day-to-day life is just on fire. It feels like you're just busy running around doing lots and lots of errands and chores and getting things done all the time. And I think that's like you're getting ready for when Saturn's up here. So this is what the summer period is. It's really getting the work done. You've put the seeds in, and now you're trying to make it all look nice, keep it all growing, keep it all strong.
Yeah, you're preparing for the seed that was planted in the dark, and you nurtured, and you then cared for it. Now you're preparing to reap the benefits, which then we head into the fall season, which will be houses 7, 8, 9, which now you want to harvest, and you want to get the most for your harvest, I hope. And that's what you and I are trying to do as we learn more astrology. We want you to get the most for what you worked on and what you deserve, right? And
Yeah.
so now it's time to merge with outside of you, right? And so house 7, 8, 9 is where you got to go into the outside world with what you know, and now you got to learn to share. You learn to give and take and give and get. And so this is where a lot of people can struggle, but this is where you can, 1 + 1 can equal 2. You become more than an island, and you really have to figure that out here.
Yeah, this is I think this is a time where you've like you say, you've been doing the work maybe within you, and that you're starting to show people what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm. And what I like to equate in astrology, the first house is you, and in astrology, the 7th house is I call it not you. Sorry, that's where you must learn about others. And so if we find somebody, and we've all probably done it once in our life, if not many times, found somebody that wasn't good for us, they won't help us find and get the most for the work we've done and the harvest we deserve and what we should get back for the harvest. So, this is the partnership house. You got to learn both sides of that, and how to deal with others, how to get the most, but also how to give the most, right? So that process then begins, and then that's fall for you. That's fall for your pattern or your cycle. And that's where you need to reap and benefit that which you've sown.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when you're really starting to see, I think when planets reach the top is like, actually, now I'm really seeing what my harvest is. What have I achieved out of all the work I've been doing in all these 3 sort of segments, these 3 seasons, as you called them there. That's when you restart. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have success when planets are sort of in 7, 8, and 9, coming up to 10. I just think it's like you're getting ready and you're seeing it, and it's building up. So you might be really doing really well down here, but you wait till it gets up to this top part, because you're going to really see it then. And if you haven't been putting some work in with a planet like Saturn, when it's crossing over down here, it might, when it gets to the top, say, okay, you haven't gone where you should have gone. Let's take you there now.
Yes. And we are doing this version of this, bringing astrology to your world, when the eclipse, which happens tomorrow at around 25 degrees Scorpio, is at the very top of my chart. So I'm flirting with disaster here, potentially, or it could be a catapulting of who I am and what I know. And you're on the opposite end, because you and I are separate, and you're digging deep, and you're bringing that. That's why this works so well. I work so well with you. I don't know if you feel you work with me, but I really feel, yeah. And so Emmeline's at the bottom in her transit of this eclipse. And so she's like really like digging deep and working deep within herself. And I'm on the other side of that of trying to figure out, all right, what's my pinnacle here, right? I'm at the top. And so I felt it was really important as I've got to know her that we together could really maybe make something special. So we'll see how this turns out.
Yeah, and don't forget, obviously eclipses come in pairs. So 2 weeks ago, my eclipse was up here and your eclipse was down there.
Yes,
so, you know, that's we've both been working with that polar opposite of energy.
So do you want to talk about the winter portion?
Yeah, so I think winter's like when you've done your work and now you're reviewing it all. It's like, okay, what have I achieved? What does that mean? You know, you're there's almost, I think when you get down to the 12th house, it's going back deep within again of reviewing. Did I do it right? Because, you know, once planets cross over your ascendant again, that's when you start anew and you start it all again. So it's really, I think, that time of review.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly right. And I don't think we discussed that enough, in that it's the very beginning phase of starting anew. So that is absolutely correct.
Yeah, you're preparing. I think like every house before the next season, you're preparing. So the 9th house, you know, you get Jupiter through the 9th house, you're really preparing for Jupiter in the 10th. And, you know, when you get clients with Jupiter in the 12th, they're really preparing for when Jupiter crosses over the 1st, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good. Anything else you want to throw into that one? Because we'll add like the fire, the modes and all that, so and the elements. So
I think that was a good good beginning to show everyone what the houses mean. Okay, let's go to the next page. Houses and signs.
So here's a better and more in-depth description of the houses, why we've defined them, and astrology is basically the data that was gathered during because the wise or the knowledgeable part of society stayed up all night and watched the stars, and they followed them, and then they would document when when the backdrop of the fixed stars, when a moving planet would cross into something, they would document what's going on, and that's how we define this. So this is basically one hell of a history accumulation of data, and so what we need to do is understand that this didn't, Emmaleen and I didn't sit here in the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years and make this up. This is thousands and thousands and thousands of years in data of how we got to what does the first house mean? What's the ruler? What sign rules it? And then what's the planet that rules first house? This is now in the next few sheets. I don't know if we have to get real in depth because it's written. Again, I'm visual, right? So I changed the color on some of this stuff so you can understand and maybe just get quick points, right, if you need to.
Yeah.
But we have the time. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is a really good visual for people that need, because you've got it here on YouTube. You can see the work you've put into it, what each house stands for.
And now the transit time of the planet that rules each house too, right? So that's here now. Mars, it's approximately 2 year, Venus 225 days. And that's from the perspective on Earth. When we see Venus and it's in the sign of Taurus, it's going to take you 225 days to get back to Taurus. Okay, so you can start understanding these quicker moving planets, and they'll be fleeting. That's why you're very emotional someday, or you feel high as a kite someday, or low as a snake in the ground the next day, because these planets, these quicker planets, are moving. They're transitory. Whenever I talk about a Mercury or a Moon heavily ruled individual, they're fleeting in how they operate. They might be gung-ho heading to the left today and change and be gung-ho headed to the right in a few days. So this will help you understand yourself more from that in-depth perspective, and why some people that are driven or ruled by a slower moving planet, why they seem so much more stable. You'll start understanding things like that And, you know, and that's keys to all of us realizing how different we actually are.
I think you get that as well when you might be good to add in here when you find the ruling planet of your chart, because then it really gives you a flavor of your personality as well, because you're talking about the planets here, so it might be good to bear that in mind. So you look at what your rising sign is, the sign that's at 9 o'clock. So if it's Leo like me, you're ruled by the sun. If it's your rising Capricorn, you're ruled by Saturn. That's a very different person to me. But so you can see that energy and look at that planet and what that means as well.
Yes. And then as you do that, you find your rising sign, find the planet that rules it, and then divide it by 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you do that, you'll start understanding the cycles and patterns. Okay. It's how simple it actually is. You just got to break it down. And that's what we're doing tonight. So
the first house, the house of ourself, the house of us, how literally our appearance as well. I mean, you can see, I think sometimes when you have a rising sign, you can see their appearance as they walk in the room all the time. It can be like, I think Scorpio rising, very intense eyes. They can almost see into your soul, Leo rising people, you can usually see with their hair, like there can literally be physical characteristics of the first house as well.
Yeah, and that's the fun I like to have, because if somebody gives me their chart and I've never met them, and then I meet them, I almost enjoy just describing what they're probably going to look like. First house is going to give me a lot of information on what their appearance is,
I do that as well. Like Uranus on the ascendant. I always like to. I always think about the eyes.
Yes.
Interesting eyes. But yeah, you can definitely see the physical, the self, how you present yourself. And if you've got a planet there in particular in your first house, right on that ascendant point, that planet is going to have a big, strong flavor in your chart.
Oh yeah.
I think of like Bill Clinton. He has a huge pile up there in the first house. He has 6 planets in Libra right there: Mars, Neptune, Venus. He's a charmer.
Oh yeah.
He's a very charming personality, and that's a great example, I think, of someone that you can see. That's what he presents. That's how his personality is. Very, very like peaceful, very charming person.
Yes.
Like Libra.
I always reference back, because I don't think you can repeat enough. These first 3 houses are springtime, right?
Yes.
So we're now defining them to another level. What sign rules, what planet rules the sign. But this is spring. Always remember that. 1, 2, and 3, springtime.
Yeah.
You starting anew, you planting seeds. You do not know what you're planting yet. You have ideas, you know what you want to plant, but that may change when you get to summertime, right? You may find the environment you're in and what you thought you were in are 2 different things. And that your plant that you planted and you weren't sure what it was going to be ends up being something else. It's up to you to figure this out. Okay. So
yeah, I mean, I often say to clients when they're having Saturn go over their ascendant, you may be beginning a couple of things, maybe a few things at the moment. Not all of them are going to stick. You're going to be putting that energy into growing, but you're going to see what sticks.
And Saturn's a 29-year cycle, so don't even try to begin to tell me on year 1 of a brand new Saturn cycle that what 29 years is going to look like, because you're lying like hell. I'll tell you that. So
yeah.
Yep.
Ask again after 14 years and see.
Absolutely. Or a little over 7, right? So let's
7.
break it down. Let's divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, and see how that goes. So
exactly. Yeah. So so the first house, very much your personality, who you are, taking that first step, beginnings. So then we move on to the second house, and the second house is then what you have and what you possess. This is my daughter saying good night. Okay.
Good night.
Sweetie. Shut the door. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Okay, so second house is then what you possess, so what you have. So first is who I am, and then what do I have.
And what you
That
need,
can
your
also mean
values, yes. Yep.
yeah, your income is like a classic example of what you have,
Mhm.
and your values as well, your
Yep.
self-worth, I think is really important, because we don't all operate with money as an important thing of what we have. So it can literally be how you value yourself as well.
Yep. The key house, if you don't know who you are, how's anybody else going, right? So you
Yeah,
got to have a value system.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is very much the value system. And I think so many people get caught up on, oh, it's your income, it's your possessions, but it's more than that.
Yes. Way more.
Okay, so then we go into house 3, the third house, and that's when you're moving out to use what you have into your environment, the environment that's close by to you. So we're looking at your people that are nearest to you, siblings, your neighbors, how you communicate, how you using your mind, how you're starting to use your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, like you talked about, that third house in each quadrant, right? The first two are, we got to get going, and it's all about the quadrant that you're in, springtime. But
yeah,
now you get to that third house, now it's about, well, I got to start figuring out how what I know I can apply to the world itself, whether it's to others that are close to you or the actual world. So that third house is where that implementation comes in. It's what you got to learn that you don't know. A lot's on the physical plane, but a lot is about just coming to a better understanding, and then trying to take that and then trying to help others learn what you know and learn from them, right? So you have to start figuring that out, where you become the master of each the last house in each quadrant is where you must master that season. So now in Gemini, you must master spring. You must understand what you had to do in the beginning, what you had to do in the middle, and now what you got to do at the end of spring to prepare for summer.
yeah, the third house is I think it's a real learning as well. The mind is wanting to learn, so what do you want to study, what do you want to start learning, because by the time you get to the opposite end, the ninth house, it's a whole different energy to that, what you're learning.
Yes. And I always say that it's where those aha moments is, because teachers are also relevant from third house perspective, but
yeah,
how many times did the teacher learn from the student, right? And it got flipped just because of the environment, and they thought they knew, teacher knew, and then as they came to the student and the student interacted, they learned something new from that student. So don't ever kid yourself. We always need to be a student.
yeah. I always think when someone has a strong Gemini, a strong third house in their chart, that there is this element of being the eternal student. They're always
Yes.
wanting to learn. If you've got lots of
Absolutely.
planets there in the third house, or lots of planets in the sign of Gemini, you're always wanting to discover, always wanting to learn,
Yes.
not wanting to let your brain go dormant, not wanting to do the housework much, I think. So you're not concerned with the mundane. You want to be doing keeping your mind busy.
Yes. Active mind, very.
Yeah. Okay, so we go to the next page. Okay, so fourth house. Now, when you get someone with a loaded fourth house, that's got to do with, I think, their early life, maybe their parents, mother in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the fourth house is the home, and there's the sort of I was saying this earlier in my class today. There's two stages, two parts of the home. There's the home you're born into, so that's the fourth house. Your parents, your heritage, your roots, where you come from. But then there's also like your physical home that you have as well, and they both can be activated by, I think, fourth house transits. So you might see some energy or something going on with your folks, your parents, where you're from, that kind of energy. Like a fourth house transit could be, oh, my parents are selling my family home, or it could literally be, I'm selling my home, I want to move, I want to decorate, I want to landscape my garden, my yard.
Yes. I also refer to that very bottom point where that fourth house starts as the most faded point in one's chart. I think that's where you stand in front of that mirror that reflects the soul, and your soul's naked there, and you know all that you've done before you got here, because I do believe in that. And if you don't, I'm accepting of that. But it's where you access that arsenal or that energy of all that you've worked on. You definitely hold things and have traditions. If you have a lot of planets down here, or whatever signs down at the bottom, your heritage is important to you, or how you go about that is important. So
yeah, you can get, sorry,
it's
you can get people that are quite patriotic, I think, and they've got lots of stuff in the
yes.
house.
Yes.
Yeah, and people that you know, if you get Mars down there in the fourth, it's like maybe you want to fight for your home, maybe you've had to fight for your home,
Yes.
maybe there's type of, you know, going to fight for your country, that type of energy, when you've got Mars in particular down there in the fourth. But also maybe good with real estate, like having Jupiter down in the fourth house.
Yes, very good, very good.
Good judgment when it comes to buying property in particular.
Yes. And I have other indicators here, right? So the first house is cardinal, second house is fixed, third house is mutable. Now we're in the next quadrant.
Yeah.
For the fourth house cardinal, fifth house is going to be fixed, and the sixth house is mutable. Please read these. These have so much information in such a small amount of writing that, and it's not sentences. I just threw all the different energies in there that came to my soul, my mind, right, based on the study. So read these and know these, get to know these, because these are going to give you so many different avenues of understanding the depth of what each of these quadrants and each of these houses and each of these, you know, whether the elements or the modes are. Okay.
Yeah. And the fourth house is ruled by Cancer.
Yes.
So it's always nice when your chart lines up to what it's to what they you know, the houses relate to. You don't get that very often, obviously, but it makes it nice.
Me and you we didn't order that up in this life, that's for sure, you and I. So
no. Okay, so next house, Leo, is the fifth. It rules the fifth. The fifth house is, wow, the fifth house is our fun house, it's our creation, it's our playful house, it's for you know, our children, it's for children, it's what the children we make, or our like our work babies, whatever projects we're trying to grow, it's what we do that in the fifth house, you know. It's our time to look at being creative. So if you have a lot of planets in the fifth house, you're going to be very playful and very creative person usually.
Yes, very. Yeah, this is the house that which brings life back to us. So stuff we really enjoy, and it's not like work. So you want to look at that house, and that's the kind of hobby you want, or that's the kind of things you want to do that you know, that you resonate with. That house is really a one that you should resonate with.
Yeah,
that brings you joy and ease and gifts.
And I just want to say, because people get very upset, you know, people that start to learn about astrology, they look at their fifth house, you know, women in particular, and say, there's no planets in my fifth house, I'm not going to have any children. That's bad astrology. That is not true.
Right.
Just because there's no planets in your fifth house does not mean that there is nothing in your fifth house. That's not how it works.
Right.
There's other ways to look at children in charts, and that's not it. I mean, doesn't mean to say that if you have a loaded fifth house and there's lots and lots of planets there, that maybe you are quite creative or very fertile. You know, that could be implied, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have children if there's no planets in the fifth.
Correct.
Okay, so the sixth house. Well, the sixth house is sometimes I feel tired just thinking about the sixth house, because I think the energy of it can be so draining, because it is like the daily routine, the daily grind. That's how I kind of think about the sixth house. If you've got lots of planets in the sixth house, you're just buzzing around serving others and being very busy and responsible a lot, you know.
Yes.
It's where we do our work.
And I always refer to that as this is the last sector of summer, and now you're getting ready to figure out, all right, what is my value going to be? What do I have? And I always refer to, I don't know why an apple tree, I have no idea I refer to that, but you got to pick the apples, you got to figure out what kind of apple you are, what the market is for that. So when you get to fall, you can get the most for what you've worked on, what you've grown, and you know what has become of you basically. So you're preparing for that step of having to enter into the world that is basically unknown, because you've been more worried about who am I, what am I, and making that, getting that base and that foundation. So this house, there's a lot to do in wrapping up the whole bottom sector of the chart, which is you working on you to enter that top part of the chart of the not you phase, which is then now you got to deal with others, and it can be tough for people. You know, they misappropriate a lot of their ideas and intentions, and they get up there and they get whacked. So it's a fun house, but it's a busy house.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really busy. It does feel like a bit like the daily grind. It's the 9-to-5 job. That's kind of what I like to say as well. It's not your career. It's not your vocation. It's not what you want to do. It's what you're doing every day. It's what you're doing to make ends meet. And if you're not working, you know, if you're, you know, a stay-at-home parent, then that is your sixth house. That's what you're doing every day. That's your routine. That's your habits. And it can also then affect your health as well. So, you know, this could be a time sometimes when you get transits to the sixth house that you might feel drained, or you might get viruses or colds and things like that as well.
Absolutely.
But it's really, I think, after you've done the creation in the fifth house, like if you look at Saturn, I think, you know, when Saturn's going through the fifth, that's where you're really getting the seeds in. I think thinking, you know, what am I growing here?
Yes.
What am I wanting to create? Because the fifth house is that creation element, and then the sixth house, it's okay, now I'm busy getting on with it all. And like you're saying, it's the last part of the summer, so now you're really busy getting it all ready, getting those ideas up and running.
Got to market yourself now.
Yeah, to get ready for the 7th.
Yes.
Okay.
And now we've entered the not self, the top of the chart. So 7 through 12. This is 7 through 9, but 7 through 12 is at the top. So
yeah. And this is ruled by Libra. It's the 7th house. So this is how we have our relationships with other people. And this is not our friendships. This is not relationships with neighbors or colleagues. This is our very close, intimate relationship. So your spouse, your partner, your business partner, that's the people we're talking about with the 7th house. And you know, if you've got a lot in the 7th house, a lot of planets there, then you're really learning about relationships in this lifetime. A bit like you know, having the sun in Libra, you're learning about how to balance putting yourself first and not other people. I think when you've got the sun in the 7th, it's sort of a similar interpretation as well, as you can be shining for others a lot. And it's also, you know, sun in the 7th is, you know, the therapist aspect as well. You're here to help others understand themselves as well.
And I always equate, because you and I are Libras, we don't have balance, we're seeking it. So
yes.
You're constantly swinging between I need to support, and then all of a sudden you feel like I've lost myself because I've been supporting, and then you swing to the other side of I need support. What about me? You know, and so it's a constant seeking of balance of others and yourself, and then how do I merge myself with somebody else truly, from a not just intimate, but like you said, you have to be exposed to make this part of this chart work. And this is the beginning of fall, so you might want to learn how to deal with others, and this is where you're going to have to do it. So
yeah, I think you know, there's a lot to learn from Aries elements when you've got a lot of Libra.
yes.
I always look at Aries people and just marvel in what they're able to do.
Yes.
Okay, because it's always looking at the opposites, and then, you know, seeing what opposite energy you need, or what you're trying to work on. And that's really, I think, when you look at the nodes, you can really see that what you've learned and where you're going.
Yep. And this is where the beginning of the beauty of astrology is, as above, so below. First house, it's all about you. Who am I? What am I? You know, where am I going? What am I doing? Seventh house is all about not you. So you're going to start to see 1 and 7 are opposites. 2 and 8, as we're going to the Scorpio ruled 8th house, 2 is your value system. As we go into this section now, 8 is others' values. And this is a powerhouse and ruled by the power planet of Pluto. And it's about where we must understand. And a lot of people with a lot of stuff up here are where they're weak and they give their power to others and then they become controlled, right? So this is the house we have to be careful because we will attract power. And then you want to make sure it's power that's going to be beneficial for not just you, but both sides, because you don't want to control anybody else. That's a karmic issue here. And this is a house of karma, in my opinion, that and the 12th. So
yes, yeah, the 8th house. I think what people astrologers like to say is it's sex, death, and taxes. It's how we operate with other people and other people's resources. And like the second house is how you value yourself and how you look at your self-worth. Or the 8th house is other people and what their opinions are and how they're looking at you, or how you're working with them with resources. Examples could be inheritances, mortgages, debts, all those type of things. You can get accountants when they've got a lot of stuff in the 8th house. You're dealing with other people's money or contracts. Those type of things can come up when you've got transits going on in the 8th house as well. Because a lot of people will say to me, oh, my clients, oh, the 8th house, that's like death and sex and what's going to happen. It's actually, it's also dealing with other people's money and resources. So are you dealing with debts, contracts? Are you sorting out your mortgage? Yes, can just literally be that stuff as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. For some reason, I think the 8th house scares people sometimes.
8th house does what now?
I think it sometimes scares people.
Yeah. Well, I like the quote I threw in there. If my devils leave me, I'm afraid my angels will take flight as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. So it's the house of fear. Fear can be the controlling substance here. So you really want to be addictions can be related to 4, 8, and 12 house water ruled signs. So you got to be careful. This is a powerhouse. So
yeah, it is. Okay, so the 9th house, quite like the 9th house. It's Sagittarius is one of my favorite signs. I love that feeling of searching for the truth, of freedom, of being like an adventurer, foreign lands. If you've got Jupiter in the 9th, you can really, I think, grow from being in a foreign land, or feel like you've got some spiritual growth, or that you've gained maybe from going to a foreign land. But like those big long journeys that you take that are not going to the neighboring state, you're going to the other side of the country, or to Europe, or Asia, you're going further afield. That type of travel. And also the mind, the higher mind, the why are we here, what's our purpose. It could also be religion as well, because it's if it's your spiritual or your religious side that comes out. But also, when you're using your mind for like a degree, or a postgraduate degree, or a doctorate, like the real, when you're applying your knowledge, like the 3rd house, we're talking about learning, being the eternal student. This is when you're mastering. This is when you're really understanding and passing on the knowledge as well. I think there can be teachers here with lots of planets in the 9th house.
And again, I like coming from all different directions. So 3rd house would be if we had astrology class, we took a trip, we took pictures, and then we came back and showed the pictures, but there was we didn't no editorial on them, nothing. 9th house, we would take videos where we had commentary, it was live, and then we showed them the videos. So how much more would you actually know what we saw, what we were thinking, if we had the video with audio? than if we just took pictures and didn't say anything. So that, to me, that's another difference between the two. There's so much more information, right? So the ninth house is where you're going to put a video out about you to expose all that you are, to get back and reach that pinnacle of all that you are, and which would be the 10th. So.
Yeah, and it's also preparing you for the 10th as well, you know, because it really is getting there. And I think also you've mentioned before about the ninth house having an association with like the moving pictures and publishing as well, which which is always good to know, because if we have careers in those areas, it's big in the ninth house.
And that eclipse is actually late in my ninth house tomorrow, so I'm close to 9-10 messing right here. So
so you're getting ready for the 10th and working on some publishing. Okay. Right, so 10, 11, 12, 10th house, Capricorn house. Well, this is, I like this house. I think it's because it's the house where you're seen. It's the house where people, you know, you're recognized. It's where you, if you've been doing the work, it's where you get your harvest. It's where you get your recognition. It's where the accolades come in, the honors. You can often get people that, like the celebrities, have planets there, like maybe have the sun up there. You know, people in the royal family have a lot of planets up in the 10th house because it's where you're seen by other people. You know, whereas the 4th house is personal, what you keep within. The 10th house is what you put out there for others to see.
Yes, and remember, it's as above, so below. So it's also, what if you were lazy and didn't do your job? You're going to be known for that too, right? So you got to be really careful. You want to make sure you did the work. And that's what you and I are doing this for, is to try to help everybody find all that they are inside, so they can, when they get to this pinnacle point, which I think the 10th house is in one's chart, they benefit the most that they possibly can at whatever given cycle.
Yeah. And that's important to know, because, you know, one of the first things you learn about astrology is planning your cycles and knowing where you're going, and looking at your Jupiter, for example, every 12 years, it's going to hit that 10th house. So, you know, put the preparation in for when it gets there, because if Jupiter's getting to the 10th, people assume it's going to be like a really great transit. And it you know, it can be, it usually is, but if maybe you haven't been up doing the work, you know, following your Saturn and doing the work, then Jupiter can come in and make that problem bigger, depending on what other transits you've got going on as well, obviously. But you know, it can sometimes like put you on the right path if you're not on the right path.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's the 10th house. And the 11th house, now this is a funny one, I think, because it's like when you say hopes, wishes and dreams, that's kind of hard to interpret sometimes, but I kind of think it's a powerful house in that it is what you're dreaming of, what you're wanting to do almost. You know, I think that if you've got maybe like a Pisces sun in the 11th house, you're going to be good at manifesting. You know, you're going to be good at focusing that dream and making it shine, getting what you want out there, because it is that hopeful, wishful energy. It is also on a more sort of practical level, our friends, our groups, our associations, they all come into this 11th house. So people that you're hanging around with, that doesn't necessarily just mean your friends. It's like, okay, are you in a group of astrology? Those are your 11th house people. You know, are you in a group for I don't know, like playing chess? You know, that's your 11th house group.
Mm-hmm. And then, because I'm Aquarius ascendant, that I always like to describe and tell people, throw caution, just a hair of caution. Not, this isn't a negative, but what I've had to learn is I've had great ideas, but I was too early. My timing was off. The world wasn't ready for them. And so this house, just because you have a dream or a hope or something that comes to play, if it doesn't happen when you feel like it should, hang on is all I'll tell you, right? Because if it's true and it's right, just stay the course and let the world catch up to you here. So, you know, sometimes your timing can be off. It's not a negative thing unless you make it one, where the ego, if the ego comes into this hope, wish and dream section, you can then really be a detriment to yourself. And I don't want that for you. So sometimes your timing might be a little bit off. You might be, a few years ahead of everybody. That's fine. Don't lose your place, right? You still have that right. You still have that ability. Don't lose it. Stay the course, I guess, is what I'd say here.
Yeah, I think that the Aquarius energy is sometimes a little bit like Leonardo da Vinci. I'll use this example sometimes where, hundreds of years ago, he's drawing, sketching aeroplanes, and people were thinking he's crazy, but
Yes.
he's ahead of his time. And that's kind of that Aquarian energy there.
Yeah. And then like I say, when I started astrology, and I believe this until I die, and you might be that one person, Emmaleen, but it doesn't matter if I'm not the one that gets any notoriety from astrology. I felt like astrology changed me. What matters to me is that if I could just put a spark into somebody else, and then what if they were the one that, had the notoriety and got to me, I still did my part because I helped them find themselves. It wasn't because of me, but it was because I found something that did that to me, and then I helped spark others. That's the job of all of ours. So I think that's also the 11th house, is that get out what you know from within, and where that goes, you don't need to care. You don't need to know, just get it out there. And I think the 11th house is a big part of that.
Yeah, it is. That's really nice. That's a good way. And I think also it's the last house of really being out there before you get into the 12th house.
Yep.
The 12th house is, oh my goodness, the 12th house is it always feels just so murky to me. 12th house is ruled by Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. It's a mutable house. 12th house is what I think astrologers like to say, it's everything else in that house.
Yes.
Everything that we haven't spoken about already falls
Yes.
into that 12th house.
It's the dumping ground. It's what's left. You got to take the trash out or whatever, right?
Yeah, whatever's left. So you're looking at, I think it's a lot of stuff that's hidden away, a lot of stuff that we cannot see. This is quite a spiritual house. There is psychic energy there as well. You get a lot of 12th house people, there can be a lot of intuition, and they've got a lot of 12th house planets placements. But it's also, I think, the house of mental health. I've been seeing that a lot, especially the last couple of years. 12th house transits is the stuff that you hide away, is stuff that you don't talk about with other people. And that can often be our mental health, what we're processing internally and what we're trying to understand. It's definitely karma. It's the end of the house's end of the cycle. So we're dealing with the karma from what we've been doing all the way through the chart, all the way through our life. And it's that connection to the unknown and what we don't quite, any of us really quite know. I often say to my clients, because I read charts for children, as I know you do, Jim, as well. If you've got a parent of a child and they have Saturn in the 12th, or even more so would be like Saturn in Scorpio in the 12th. I think then you're looking at someone who could be very fearful, scared of the dark. Their fears are real. They're connecting to this other world all the time and not understanding how or why or how to shut it off, because it's almost like a natural ability. So if you have like a planet like that in the 12th house, as a child, you might have felt a bit overwhelmed because you're able to connect into what's sort of going on beneath, what's going on around us. The other people might not even understand. So if you have a child with placements there and they're saying they're scared of the dark, I would believe them. I would say, maybe find ways to work with that, because it really is that connection to what we don't know, the unknown, the spiritual world, how we escape. And that's why we can also find problems with addictions and stuff in the 12th house as well. So if you don't deal with some of that scary stuff early on, that's how, when you're older, I think, then maybe you escape with drugs or alcohol to try and deal with it.
Yeah, hence the word karma, which has such a wide range of definition of karma on the one side, of where it's the addictive side, that it almost holds you in that energy, right? and then you got to work to overcome it. And it takes a lot of energy from the individual to overcome it. But there's also, and the older I get, now that I'm 56, I see this even more. Don't forget that this also is the house of karma on that other side of what about the good that you've done or the work that you put in, and you know, the energies that can then help. I mean, I think this is where that miracle can happen. The 11th and 12th houses are where miracles can show up, or work that's been done where something from the past is a benefit, not it may be always a detriment, where I think we get stuck on that negative side, which it's both. And I don't want you to run and hide from one or the other, but to know that you also have tremendous hidden gifts that may be hard to put your finger on, because it's a water ruled sign that the physical plane has a tough time explaining. So
yeah, definitely tough. That's what it is. I think that sums it up really well. A tough time explaining it. It's kind of a tough time to explain it. And
yes.
I didn't want to come across like it was a negative house, because I don't think it is a negative. I don't think there is a negative in astrology. And that's the other thing that I think people get very confused about is, oh my gosh, is that bad? Does this mean it's bad? I hear that question so much in readings. There's no bad planets, there's no bad like energy. It's you know, energy has a higher form and a lower form. And if you're you're looking at the 12th house, what you know, like I was just saying with the children, they're scared, but they just don't necessarily know why they're scared. You know, that kind of energy that can come up with that.
So you're dealing with from both of the perspectives. So I don't think you came across negative. I think we described it well for the audience.
Yeah.
I think it was perfect. So
well, no, but I just didn't want anyone else to think, oh my gosh, if I've got loads of planets in the 12th, this is really bad, I'm going to have addictions. And no, it's not. Right. It's not that. It's just working. You know, if you've got your sun in the 12th house, that could be someone that's working behind the scenes. Literally, you're working for other people. You're not seen. You're like the personal assistant for someone really famous, or you're the person wearing the black clothes in the back of the theater that no one can see, but you're operating the whole show.
You're running the show.
You're running the show. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a 12th. And also don't forget 12th house, you know, is horses and all those large animals. So if you get the horse lovers, sun in the 12th, you know.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I think the Queen has sun in the 12th in her chart. It's no secret that she's a big horse fan. She definitely has a 12th house something, because yeah, she's a big horse fan.
Yep.
I do look at the royal family's charts because, you know, they're easy to get their times because they're public knowledge, and their lives are sometimes quite public, so we can see and learn from their charts. Right. So that's another great way to learn astrology, is to look at someone who's known and their chart, and then what's going on in their chart. So if you can get enough time to someone, you know, you can learn by watching people play out their charts, which is a great way to learn about houses and astrology and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like maybe right now looking at someone like Johnny Depp's chart would be you know, interesting, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, so
I always refer back. We're back to you said, well, this is the same chart as before. Yeah, well, it is. Well, we just gave you more definition, so hopefully you look at this and just let it sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
And think about the seasons. Think about the east-west point, north-south point. And just think about, you know, what we ran through pretty in depth, all 12 houses. Think about where your natal planets are and why, maybe get a deeper perspective who you are, because we're getting ready to go into what I consider the best part of this whole program. Is I got this thing color coded visually to help you really like start digging. So.
There's the colors.
Green.
So this helps highlight what you've been trying to explain, is that the first three,
yep,
you know, the second three, you can see all those quarters there. That's really, it's a good way of looking at the energy when you mix it into these quarters, you know, these seasons. It sort of really shows you what you're working with at any time. And then also the horizon. Do we talk about that now, or is that later?
Yeah, we can talk about that now, and we can add to it. Actually, we'll do the next one. There's two slides down. I think that does it. Sorry.
Oh, okay. We'll leave that for the next. Okay, yep. So yeah.
So greens for spring, yellow summer, the warmth of the sun, fall, I did the kind of an autumn color, and then the winter I did a cool blue. And think about those seasons and start getting visuals and just let it sink in. That's what astrology is. You don't learn astrology by grabbing a book and reading it and say, I know astrology. You get that book, and then that book, like the truth, it's going to keep teaching you more, even when it's not in front of you and you're reading it. Let yourself just learn. That's why astrology, I know, is a natural truth subject, because it comes to me when I don't have, I might be in the shower, I might be driving down the road, I might be on a conference call, and something about Mars will come to me, or something about, Venus will show up, and it just comes out of the blue. That's why I know I'm dealing with the truth when I deal with this subject for me. And so I would love that to happen to everybody I know. It may not to the level, or it may 20 times the level, but this is where I really want you to start really letting astrology just soak it in, just let it come to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's when you get your best ideas. Is I often do when I'm speaking to someone, and they'll just start describing an event or their parts of their personality, and then I'll go, oh my goodness, that must be Mars Venus, or you hear something. You start figuring out their chart before you can even when you just start meeting them sometimes, or talking to people.
Yeah, and I love to, I guess I'm pretty good at guessing people's element. There's elements that rule their sign. I can get that fairly quick, and they're just like, how do you know that? And I'm just like, well, you gave it up. I mean, you've exposed it. I was just aware. And that's what I like about astrology, is if you just observe, you can become the master of about anything, but you've got to be willing to observe. So
yeah. And that's what I was saying about learning from people who are known, politicians or celebrities, looking at their charts and going, what happened? Oh, look at that aspect. That's how it's affected them. And that's another way to learn as well. And also with your own chart. Although I think it's really hard to sort of transit, like look at your own chart and work out what's coming ahead for you.
Yes.
And predicting what's coming ahead, because it's yourself. So what I like to do is look back on my chart when I've had stuff happen and go, oh, okay, that was that was, reading it backwards almost, and then learning that way. I think that can be another good tool.
That is a great point, is that you learn from your past. And I truly believe we change our past the more we learn from it, because we were at a certain understanding as we went through it, whether you went through it 2 years ago or 20 years ago. And now the more you learn and the more you realize that that's all we need to do is keep getting better and learning. The more I think you change your past, because you come to a better understanding to see why and what you were dealing with. So great point.
It's fun when you start learning about astrology and transits to go back over events in your life and go, okay, what was going on?
Yep. And those quadrant points are very good. When you hit house 1, and this will be later, but you see when the color changes from green to yellow, when it changed from blue to green, that's a huge moment in your life. There's a lot of changes going on. You're changing seasons.
Yeah.
When it goes from green to yellow, you're changing seasons. When it goes from yellow to orange, you're changing seasons. Orange to blue, you're changing seasons. That's you. That's not the world. That's you. Okay. So this is key. This color code is key here for you.
Okay. So planets.
More repetition here, but this is the what, right? And so the planets are kind of telling you, all right, what am I dealing with here? What's going on with these planets transit or where they are natally? This is a lot of reading you can do, where I don't know if you and I have to go too much, because I know everybody can read.
Yeah, that's true.
But, you look at these and really start getting to understand these planets, where they were natally. And then once you get versed enough and figure out where they are transiting, you start realizing, all right, here's my what. This is what's going on here.
Yeah.
And you start breaking this thing down and making sense of it.
Yeah. So you're looking at what the planet is, and then where it is, which house it's in, and that's kind of really sort of, and then what's the sign for how it's being interpreted. That's the translation of astrology, isn't it? Really. I think we could just go through each planet and just say like 1 or 2 things that come to mind.
Go ahead, because you got these down, so I'm good with that.
So like Mercury, I just think Mercury is a planet of the mind and communication. going backwards right now. We're doing our YouTube video, so we're bearing with that energy.
Right.
Venus, love and money. People
Mhm.
often forget the money with Venus.
Yes, they do.
There's also money. Mars is action and passion and initiation. Just I always think of that as just a lot of action. A lot of athletes have like a strong Mars in their chart.
Yes.
Moon, I think of Moon as very feminine, female, emotional energy. Obviously, it's a mom, but you know, just our energy generally really comes in with the Moon. But our emotions. The Sun is where you shine, your life force, what you're good at. Which often comes up, whereas in your charts, you know what you're good at. Sun is provider of life. Jupiter is, I call it the good luck planet. It's what makes part of your chart grow, expand. It can literally bring you good luck. Saturn, discipline and working hard and karma as well. Responsibility, that's what I was thinking of. Saturn, responsibility. Okay. Uranus is it's shocking. That's the biggest thing about Uranus is you know, you're never going to be able to predict what Uranus is. When Uranus stations, you can pretty much, you know, see that's when we have like a lot of big earthquakes and things like that. Neptune. Now Neptune, I always like to say, is the higher love. Like Venus is love, Neptune is like the higher love. That's what I like to use as the higher form of Neptune. But you know, we also have it's the mystical illusion. Sometimes you can't quite see clearly with Neptune. Pluto, I like to say as transformation, death and rebirth. You know, it can bring about changes.
Yes. I'm going to add one thing that we probably should have talked about, but if we go back to 2 slides ago, actually you probably, no, gosh.
You want me to go back?
Yeah, go to slide 9. One more. Yeah, there you go. So if you look at, I have the sign that rules the house and then the planet that rules the sign in each of those houses. So if you go to the planets, which are on the inner circle, and you start with Mars and you go all the way through the 12th, if you want to, each planet also rules a part of the body, right? And the Mars starts with the brain and the top of the head. Venus goes to the kind of the sinuses and the throat. Mercury goes down further, and it goes from the top of your head from Mars all the way to your feet, which would be Neptune. So think about that too, and that's just a little nugget for you to figure out. All right, well, what sign is my ruling sign, and then find the planet and go, well, what part of the body? Those will help you to understand a little more who you are, your health issues, and then as we didn't talk about, we probably don't need to go into too much detail everywhere, but the 6th house is minor illnesses. So you want to find the ruling planet, the ruling sign and planet for that house. And then the 12th is major illness. So you can find things that can put you down, or, you know, that you really need to probably be careful and care for on that health perspective. So astrology covers everything. It's just a matter, are you going to dig deep enough and do the work? So I hate to throw that into them, but it came to my mind. I'm like, I probably should have made a slide on that. Oh,
no, that's good. That's good that you've mentioned it. Yeah, because, you know, planets, there's a connection to body parts. And you can actually go to astrologers that literally specialize in health. You know,
yes. Yep.
Medical astrologers.
So again, that's just another repeat, because I don't think you can get enough of this. And now we go to the part where me and you we can quickly start, I'm not going to call them assumptions, trends, I guess, or characteristics of the individual. If you start dividing this chart in half, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you want to talk about this one, action versus fate?
Yeah. So this, I think what we're saying here is, if you look at the picture, half of the chart on one side, half the chart on the other. If you have lots of planets in the green half, the first half, you know, as compared to if you have lots of planets in the other section.
Fate, green is you want to be an action taker, right? That means that if you have a lot of planets in a house of 10 through 3, you need to take the reins. Okay. And if you think about the seasons that we talked about, you'll know why. If you have a lot of planets in 4 through 9, you understand fate and you understand maybe you got to observe a little more. And so this will help you with a deeper trend or trait that you have, that maybe you'll understand yourself more so and help you get through and handle and understand as you go through, and quit fighting this thing, right? Get in rhythm with this, because we're trying to help you get in that rhythm and get in that cycle. And so this is an interesting way to divide someone's chart and quickly go, whoa, 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 whoa. I get it now. I need to be in control. That's why I feel the need to, take the reins a little more than most people. Maybe that person you're with has a lot of planets in 4 through 9. You don't know, but this will help you to understand yourself more first and then others.
Yeah, that's how it can come up when it's those two sides, like the left and right of the chart. And then you can also look at the north and the south, the top and the bottom as well.
Yep.
Below and above the horizon, which I think once you described, and I thought this was really good, as eating spaghetti with a black or a navy shirt on. You're not going to see if you spill. The hidden part. I thought that was really good. Good way of trying to say like the bits that's seen and the bits that's not seen. So I like to say, if I'm looking at someone and they have like all of their planets in the top half of their chart, that you're very much what you see is what you get, because you're putting out, you're putting people to see. Now, when you get people that have all of their planets at the bottom, which you can get, very much so, you can see that sometimes. I would say to them, people think they know you, but they don't know you. They don't really know you very well, because you're not going to give away a lot of yourself to others very quickly or very easily. So it's going to take a while to get to know you. And in fact, some people might be surprised because they might keep finding out things about you,
And then I just think from a light and dark perspective, if you're 7 through 12, you have to do things out in the physical plane, right? That are probably got to be noticed or need to be noticed. If you're 1 through 6, you're going to do a lot of behind the scenes or underground work that maybe not get noticed. Don't be frustrated if you have a lot of planets 1 through 6. You're the quiet ones that make all this stuff come true, in my opinion. So not one is better than the other, but they both have extreme power.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, because I don't think of it like that, but if you're putting stuff out there, like I said, a lot of celebrities and people in the royal family have a loaded 10th house and things like that. So they're more noticed for getting things done, but that doesn't mean that they're the only ones that getting stuff done.
Right. That's true. So
good way of looking at it. Okay.
This is where I love all this, right? These are the different modes, right? And this is, think of a stoplight. Green, you go. Yellow, you got to be hesitant. You got to observe. Maybe you go. Red, you stop. And each quadrant, as you see, spring's got all three. Summer, fall, and winter. They have all three.
Yeah.
And so when you get an angular house for 1, 4, 7, or 10, man, you are a starter. You may not see things through. So if you have a lot of planets in 1, 4, 7, and 10, it's about getting things going. And you can't tell me that isn't going to be just as important as the second house of half the time you got the foot on the gas, the other half you have the foot on the brake. The light's going yellow, and then red, you have to stop. But these are all three critically important in all of our lives, because you got the starters, the cardinals, you got the fixed sign, the middle, 2, 5, 8, and 11. They're stubborn. They have to go, no, we have a plan and we got to stick to this thing to the point where it needs to see some success or progress. And then the mastery, if you have a lot of planets in 3, 6, 9, and 12, you're the master. You observe. You have done the student work in past lives, so to speak, and it's about the teaching part, right? You're observing to become the master of spring, the master of summer, the master of fall, the master of winter. And so your job is to oversee, so to speak. And here we break ourselves into even more then, and down, and to figure out, hey, well, yeah, maybe it does set a precedence for who I am. I got a lot of planets in all these greenhouses, right? I mean, they may not be a cardinal sign, but it might be in the cardinal house in your chart. So you got to be real careful here. The best thing about all this is that each element, we have earth, fire, air, and water. Each element has each mode. And this is that 12, it's 4 times 3. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful makeup. So each water sign has a green, and it has a yellow, has a red. Each air sign, green, yellow, red. It depends on which season, right? But each one does. And so, when you do the math now the math really gets beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. And, if you've got a lot of planets in the first house, like we were talking about Bill Clinton earlier, I think he has sort of 5 or 6 planets over there in the first. He's good at starting things, he's good at initiating things, but that doesn't mean he didn't become president.
Right.
You can still, it doesn't mean that you're sort of kept into that box kind of thing as well.
Right. Yep.
Just that's your power, I suppose.
Correct. So that's the modes. Those are important. You want to pay attention to those, and then we go to the elements, which then these are
elements. Yeah.
There's 4 different. So there's each there's 3 in each element. So you got 3 earth, 3 fire, 3 earth, 3 air, and 3 water. And this helps you. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, and sometimes you notice when you break down your chart and you look at your chart and you see where your planets and your rising sign is, and also your midheaven, you might not have any water, or you might not have any earth, and sometimes people worry about that. Oh my goodness, I have no water, I have no emotions,
Right.
It's not that. It's actually, sometimes you can be feeling that you're overwhelmed with emotions, even though you don't have water, because you don't have that in your chart, so you're not necessarily used to knowing how to use it. But also sometimes you partner with someone. When you look at your what we call synastry, like relationship charts together with other people, then you can really see how you can partner with someone who has what you don't have in your chart.
Yes. And then so I'm going to quick define fire. Think about fire. And think about as these advance, the first fire signs, Aries, second one's Leo, third one's Sagittarius. And so what does fire do? It brings something from one form and changes it to another. It raises things up. So that's what fire signs try to do. They're trying to come in there with that vibrant spirit to raise something to another level. You think of the earth signs of where we're on a physical plane, we're going to be born, and then we will die. And the physical plane will, we have to build stable and secure. And so the earth signs are about us learning to be in the physical plane. The air signs are the communication, right? So think of the wind. If you saw a field of hay and you couldn't see the wind, you could maybe hear it and maybe feel it, but you couldn't see it, but you could watch it as it bent each piece of hay or grass, and as the wind traveled across the field. And so you communicate, you're getting a message out, right? That may not be in physical form, but it may be things that that you need to communicate and spread that message out. And then water is just that. About anything you put in water, it breaks it down, and it wants to break it down to where it can get to a fluid. Some things do sink. I'm not gonna, not gonna lie, but you think about water and how they have a fluidity to them. And what water does. Water helps break things down to make them to where you figure them out, right? But it's also not so much on the physical plane. So you've got to go with the tides or go with the current, or and you can sink if you're not careful, or you can swim. So you have options here with water, and you want to really understand, and you've got to learn to go with that flow. These emotionally ruled signs and houses are or something that, you know, if you have them in their PowerPoints, you want to make sure you start understanding deeper who you are, because that emotion can drive you crazy or can drive you
Oh yeah.
the highest of highs. So
I mean, I always say I think water is the most powerful element we
it is.
have. If you look at
I
what
think
destruction water can do and you see how strong it is, because everyone always thinks, oh, water, peaceful, calm,
Yeah, right,
lakes, mountains.
right.
They don't really think about tsunami and then how the strength and floods when you see, what damage they can do. I mean, I think water is really the strongest. It's sometimes disguised.
Yes, I agree with that. And think of how well water and fire get along. So think about those elements and the two different elements. And so what signs are ruled by the element, and then think about earth and air and fire, they go well.
Yeah,
Earth and water go well. So you want to think about that too, as you're trying to combine who you are with others.
yeah, it's true. Or when you look at what you have in your own chart and how it works, if you
Right.
have a lot of air and a lot of fire, a lot of hot air, a lot of hot ideas.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so 3 critical points in a birth chart. I like to call this the big 3. That's
Yes.
when I'm explaining it to clients, which I don't think I came up with that term. I think it's a generic term. The big 3: the sun, the moon, the ascendant. If you can look at them, and you can spend the first sort of 5 or 10 minutes doing a reading, going through them with a client, that's really the core chunk of a person's personality.
Yep.
What you're working with. And like we said before, read for the ascendant. Don't read when you're reading your horoscopes. Don't read for your sun if you can.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is the most accurate statement any of us have made tonight. So that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. So sun, where you shine, what you're good at. You've put here your journey and pathway, which is really nice. Your moon. Your moon, I think you don't have to try with your moon. It's what you instinctively know already.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And it's what you need to nurture about yourself as well. So you look where your moon is. Like if your moon's in Gemini, you need to be mentally stimulated daily. You can't be shut off from talking to someone. So you need to be with a person or in a relationship with a partner who can cope with that, chatter, that wanting to read, wanting to learn, wanting to talk. You need to nurture your moon. So you're that's one of the biggest things to look at when you're looking at synastry and relationship, how you connect with others, is are your moons compatible? Because your moon is what you need every day. It's what you do every day. It's what you instinctively feel,
Yes. Yep.
I have a client with a moon in, well, he's actually a friend, so I don't think he'll mind me saying I wouldn't really want to talk about clients' charts, but one of my good friends is moon in Aquarius in the 6th house, and he absolutely loves to play computer games. He has to do it every day, but that's his comfort, and that's how you would interpret that, I think. Moon, what you instinctively want to do, what your comfort is. The 6th house, your routine, your daily.
Yep.
Aquarius in technology, in doing something with like technology, and I think that can be an example of using your moon. So your past, like you've put here.
Absolutely.
Your ascendant is your ascendant's probably, I think, how people would describe you, like your personality. Like we said earlier, it could be what you physically look like as well.
And people like to say it's a mask one wears until they really get to know. So I think it's who you try to show you are initially.
That's true.
Yep. So.
Okay. Is the natal charts. Oh, that's nice to see. It's always exciting when you see charts.
Yeah, this one's actually mine. I put it up there just so you can kind of see what you're going to look at when you go to order something. We don't really have to talk about my chart. I just put it up so they could kind of get an understanding of the chart, the points.
Yeah.
Mine, this is the one I do. I like the color coding. You see the bar around the outside, and it's colored, the different element colors. And then those lines in the middle are, if we divided it by 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Those lines make the heavier aspects, which are the ones I pay attention to the most, because that's enough information. And I don't mind putting mine out there. I don't care. You can read me if you want. I don't but I put it up there just so you know, and you'll get an idea of what's going on when you do go to one of the sites that we have later in the presentation to pull your natal chart up.
Yeah, so that's this is what you can expect to see when you see a natal chart. And all these lines in the middle, we haven't really spoken about aspects. That's a whole other video, I think.
Yes, that'll be another video.
That is a whole other video, but don't get sort of confused when you pull up a chart and you do see these lines all in the middle that are joining. They're connecting dots, they're connecting planets. So they're just literally showing you how one planet connects to another.
Correct.
And that's a different thing to read as well. So that's not, you don't worry about that when you see it. It's not scary, it's not bad. Some people say, oh my gosh, there's so much in the middle, there's always lines, what does that mean? It's just more stuff to read. It's not good or bad.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so finding your compass.
We've kind of discussed all this, and
we're doing well.
Yep. So just repetition, just so you learn these. You want to know the different glyphs, and
the glyphs they can be different. Yeah, they can be, especially the planets. I think sometimes the planets look really confusing when you see it on different softwares. Yes. When you're first starting to learn, hold on, I've learned it one way and it looks slightly different.
Yep. And that's just a chart, and the other forms see a little different, but it's the same thing. So repetition, I like it.
Now it's how you learn, isn't it? Keep doing things over and over.
Yes.
That's how you learn to do astrology. I think the more and more readings you do, the more you learn. And we're always learning with astrology anyway. Yes. Every time I do a workshop with Jim, I learn something new from him.
Well, I learn from everybody. That's why I love, I know when we do our class, I love when somebody's sitting there and you don't think they're paying attention, then they come up with something that they've kind of been feeling and they've letting it marinate, and then they talk, and it's like, well, that's a great point or perspective that I didn't really have that. And so I add that like you do, and you just add it to the definition of whatever we're talking about. So
yeah, it's good.
And then these are just the Celestine insights. So I just love the comments. So we don't have to read them, but they're there for you to have. They're just mind opening. Just help me awaken. I think all of us every moment should try to just awaken more.
Yeah, and one of the first things I remember you saying to me that I learned was when you first begin to study astrology, that you just start asking more and more questions. And I think one of the first things you said to me was the more you learn, the more questions you have.
Yes.
And that just right at the beginning just put me on that path of, oh, okay, so that's how it's going to be. Yes. We're going to ask all these questions, but we're never really going to get all the answers. And that's one of the great things about astrology. You can really start exploring it, like looking at the things like the Mayan calendar and trying to figure out how exactly they plotted that and how they got those moon cycles on. Like you said, the more you learn, the more questions you have.
Yes.
Looking at the pyramids, how they're linked to the stars. It is very interesting.
Yes. And how exact their timing was on that calendar. I mean, they were the milliseconds, ridiculous. So
how did they know that? It's just it's very, very interesting. I sometimes think that people come to astrology and they think this is all very new. This is all, I had someone asking me about when astrology was starting. Has it been since the 70s and all that? It's not really since the 70s. It's been going on for hundreds, thousands of years. It's just it goes through cycles of people being aware of it and using it more at times than other times, I guess.
And my because I'm an Aquarius ascendant, my hope, my wish, and my dream for astrology is to introduce it to families like you talked earlier that are, they're getting ready to have the child, or they just had the child. Started from that perspective and really enhance that child's life from day one. and then get it while they're young. Let them learn it, let them know it. Don't, just show them what it is, and you'll be amazed at how well they understand it and how much they pick up. You will be amazed.
Yeah, and you can know how to child's chart. You can know how to stimulate them, how to get them to be interested,
Absolutely.
how to get them to want to do some work or want to do a project, or how to negotiate with them when they're a toddler. Like, you can see all the stuff in their chart, which is can be really helpful as a parent, to work out how to get them interested in things like schoolwork. Like, look at their Mercury. How do they learn? Are they a visual learner? Are they, all that kind of stuff is really helpful.
And what I found is I broke the patterns of my grandparents, my parents to me, and then myself to my children. Astrology helped me break some of the patterns that we watched them as they were a detriment for 4 generations. And I'm starting to break those, because everybody did what they knew, right? But you get better, you learn more, you become more wise. My parents did a hell of a job. I mean, all of us, I have, there's 5 of us, so I have 4 siblings, and we all ended up being fairly successful. They did a hell of a job, but there were some things that, we wanted to all get better. We all worked on those. Astrology helped me get better with my kids. So.
Yeah, it's great. Helping to understand your partner as well. Like, when I do readings for people and their partner, it's great to say, your partner his moon needs to be shut away sometimes. That's just how he operates.
Yes.
He's got a Pisces moon. He needs to go away. He needs
to hide.
He needs to shut down.
Yep.
And people will say, "Oh, okay, I thought he was just ignoring me." He needs to shut down from the world sometimes. When you start to see that, you can really help to see what other people need as well.
You're truly doing what's best for that energy. Absolutely.
Yeah, and for your children as well. What they need, what their moons need, how they need to be nurtured, taken care of.
Yes.
Moon is where you need to be nurtured. Now, your Mars is what you need to exercise to not get depressed. That's what I always think of, is if you're not living your Mars, you're going to be feeling depressed, because that's what you need to keep going to try and keep yourself feeling like you're not getting down in the dumps. Like, your Mars is what keeps you excited and keeps you pacing. So, Mars in Sagittarius, you might want to be athletic, running around, sporty. You might want to be traveling. When lockdown happens, you can't travel. What are you going to do? You have to keep the exercise going. Maybe watch some YouTube travel videos to try and feel like you're using that Mars. You've got to keep your Mars. You've got to keep your moon nurtured, and you've got to keep your Mars energized.
Yes, you do. That's absolutely true.
Okay, so pondering.
I'd like to just read these, because I think hopefully we've opened your mind, and this can help keep it, so if you want to just read them.
Okay, that's the risk you take if you change. That people you've been involved with won't like the new you, but other people who do will come along. That's a lovely quote. I like that one. That's really good with astrology. Once you start understanding more about you, you realize who you're leaving behind and where you need to go. Next one is, consider how hard it is to change yourself, and you'll understand what little chance you have in trying to change others. That's a good one as well. I always feel like it's such a wasted energy trying to change others. And that's why I was just talking about that with the moons, because my partner doesn't want to talk to me sometimes. Okay, his moon's in Pisces. You're not going to change that. He needs to have that time. He needs to shut off. You can't change others, but you can understand a bit more. So the next quote here is, every calling is great when greatly pursued. Well, that's nice as well. Yeah. And that, you can really get your calling from a birth chart, your soul's purpose, where your sun is, where your Saturn is, where your North Node is, all those things really point towards your soul's purpose. And that's what a lot of people want when they go for an astrology reading. Like, what am I here for? What am I destined for? What am I meant to do with my life? Well, you can really get that information from looking at those 3 things. The last quote here is, a reporter interviewing A.J. Must, who during the Vietnam War stood in front of the White House night after night with a candle. One rainy night asked Mr. Must, do you really think you are going to change the policies of this country by standing out here alone at night with a candle? Must replied, oh, I don't do it to change the country. I do it so the country won't change me. Oh, that's lovely. I've not heard that one before.
That's kind of the 11th house one I live by.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. The Aquarius, it's about, you might be right on, you just timing might be a little off. So
yeah,
you've got to know who you are, you know, and that's key. I love that quote. That's one of my favorites. So
yeah, that's a really good one, actually. Yeah. You know, you're not always doing it for the greater good. It's like trying to think of that other quote. It's elusive now. Trying to think of you're not doing it for the world, you're doing it for you. But I can't think of what it is now. But it's just, it's along the same lines of that one.
Right. Yeah.
I'll think of it when we finish this video.
So then what I've done for and this, you and I talked, so you said it was okay. You want to keep going? Well, here's my email, my YouTube page, Emmalene's astrology channel, Emmaleen Astrology on YouTube, and then I put your, oh man, I put your email. Sorry, I changed that and I forgot to update it.
It's okay, because you sent me this before. It's fine.
Okay.
So I operate with Emmalene's Astrology because my name is Emmaleen Muldoon. That is a lot of that is two unusual names that people can't always remember or find on Google very easily. So I tried to make it easier by just having Emmalene's Astrology. So you can find me on Facebook, on YouTube, and also my website is www.emmalenesastrology.com. So you can email me there or get in touch with me there.
So a couple sites I use, I love Astrology Zone, and I love Astro Dance. And I don't know if they still do free charts. They used to. I would refer people there. If I didn't send the chart, I have a program that I can do charts too. I try to be careful because I'm not whining here, but I have no problem getting people charts and things, but it ends up being a lot and get a lot of people. So those are two site references. We're going to add to this as we talked earlier. I threw a couple videos that I have on YouTube back earlier. Which Pluto generation are you? I did a radio show. I thought that ended up being one of my favorites. And then Pluto transiting Capricorn, which is the time we're in from the Pluto perspective. And then Emmaleen, I threw some books, beginning astrologers, because that's a lot of the questions.
Yeah.
There's the few beginning ones, and I know you're going to have some. So I think we're going to add to this because I know you've read probably everything under the planet, knowing you. So Emmaleen's going to add. This is my wimpy list. I have about 20 bookshelves of astrology books. I don't think this is all I've read, but these are the ones that like touched me. And then I have, if you want to advance, you're more than just a beginner and you want to go the immediate lifelong, I've got some more detailed books, and there's way more than that. But this is a short list to get it out there and get you going. So
yeah, I think one of the best, when I started studying at the London School of Astrology, they made us buy, it's called the Contemporary Astrologer's Handbook, and it's by Sue Tompkins. And I always say, if you want to start off to learn about astrology, that sort of covers all the ground. You're gonna be okay with just having that book to start off with. And it's quite it's written in a way that is easy to follow as well. It's not dumbed down, and it's not basic at all, but it is a really good introduction, and it covers all the areas. So I like to use that. One of my favorite authors though is Pam Gregory, and she has two books. One of them is called You Don't Really Believe in Astrology, Do You? And she named it that because everyone kept asking her that question when she told him she was an astrologer, so she just wrote a book about it. And the other one is How to Co-Create Using the Secret Language of the Universe. And that talks all about the nodes. And I mean, when I first started studying astrology, I mean, we haven't actually spoken about the nodes today, but I just did kind of what we've gone through now. And that's how I was learning astrology for a few years. When I started learning about the nodes, that's really like all I use when I'm doing my readings now is the nodes. You can get so much from just the nodes.
Yes, you can.
So, and she has a really good book on the nodes. So Pam Gregory has some really good books.
Good.
I really recommend her stuff.
And this is a lifelong subject here, so I'm going to add for the rest of my life. I haven't stopped, and I know you're not going to. So.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things that Pam Gregory says. Actually, I think she's been doing astrology for about 40 years. She says you'll never stop learning every day.
Nope.
You'll just carry on learning about it. Well, there's no way we can learn it all.
Nope.
The other thing that's quite a challenge with it is trying to keep up with it all.
Yes. Yep. So the object was, this is an eclipse, and it's the awakening from the soul. Pluto rules Scorpio. And the object of tonight was to get you a subject that you could maybe get a little more detailed information. And I promise you, from my perspective, I know Emmeline's is the same. If you decide it's too much, you don't want to, that's not our objective. Everybody has to do it. But we sure feel this could be something to enhance your life, and then the life that you continue to create, even if we don't see it or we don't notice it. It's not about either one of us, but it's about all of us getting better. And we just need to assist and help each other more now than ever, because the Great Awakening's here. And I'm not gonna lie, I haven't put my Pluto in Aquarius book video out yet, but the astrologers are coming, and so is astrology, because Aquarius rules astrology, and Pluto's going into Aquarius. So get yourselves ready. This will become more relevant, and we will get way more information. So I'm hoping everybody gets ahead of it, and that's really our objective. I think that's why Emmaleen and I got into this subject when we did, because it drew us there, but it drew us there for more than just ourselves. So
yeah, and I think it's going to awaken all those sort of other spiritual practices as well. I think astrology is actually, I think of it as being academic because of what we've just explained. You have to learn a lot, read a lot. I always think of it as a science, really. Yep. But I think with the Aquarius coming in, with the Pluto, we're going to be seeing, growth in alternative medicine and maybe Reiki and all sorts of other energy healing practices. People are going to start exploring other areas of the world as well as astrology, So I think people are getting ready for these changes that are coming.
Yeah, and Aquarius also rules the truth, and Pluto's going to unveil the truth, help unveil the truth. So there'll be a lot of information that's coming that is going to help us in ways that we've never imagined. So just prepare yourself and get ready. Astrology will be one small piece, but hopefully it helps you develop all the other pieces that are coming. So I thank you, Emmaleen, because you put the Zoom together. I've enjoyed, since I've met you, I've enjoyed hanging around you. Love the classes. I think that people will see just how good you are, and that's kind of what we want to do here, is to get the word out and get you out and get me out there, because I need to get out there. I've been hiding for 3 years. So
yeah, you haven't done much YouTube videos over the last couple of years, which everyone's been upset about. They've missed them for sure.
Well,
but yeah,
back,
there was
right?
nice. Yeah, we're back, and people are really using their astrology. And I think we said this in one of our classes recently. People used to come to us with their charts in their hands and say, what does this mean? Can you read it for me? Now it's great. We're getting people come to us and say, okay, this is my chart. I've been looking about this. What do you think about this? So, I think that not everyone maybe wants to learn astrology, but it seems like a lot of people are really doing it, and they're getting to grips with it, and they're going out there and they're doing the work with their own charts already. So hopefully this can just help those people.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you and we talked about, that is that people are doing the work, and that's all I've wanted. I started in 2001. I realized I needed to do the work. That's all I'm hoping everybody does. Do your work, find what resonates and get going, become more, get better. Because it's never going to be enough, and you always need to know something. Hopefully this helps you on that path. So I hope everybody enjoys this. I know we went a little long. You and I tend to do that, but
yeah,
we do this with our intuition, and I love it because we hit way more than we could have if we just would have read through this. So nice work tonight.
It wasn't too bad though. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't too
we'll
bad.
try to get this out tonight or tomorrow. I don't know. We're going to find out how hard this is to get up onto YouTube now, but we hope you enjoy. Comments are welcome, and our websites will be, I'm going to copy your YouTube on mine, and if you'll copy mine on yours, and we'll keep that thing. Okay.
We'll get that going. Well, thanks so much for listening, and it's been great hopefully we can do some more videos together as well in the future. It's been really, it's like having another class doing this on Zoom. So it's really good.
Absolutely. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Okay,
Yep,
well, take care. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.